Hey guys, welcome back to Ace Recaps. Buckle up, cause we're in for a wild ride filled with time-hopping twists, heart-melting romance, and maybe, just maybe, a second chance at happily ever after. Today, we're diving into the whirlwind adventure of a 2022 sci-fi romance flick titled Press Play. Laura is seen fiddling with a Walkman while her best friend, Chloe, is outside the room, begging her to open the door. When Chloe enters, Laura has mysteriously vanished into thin air. Maybe she just couldn't handle Chloe's nagging anymore. The movie then takes us back 4 years ago, where Laura and Chloe are relaxing at the beach. Laura enjoys the scenic beauty by painting, while Chloe, feeling irritated, urges her to come to the local record shop where her brother works. As they arrive, Laura meets Harrison for the first time, and they instantly hit it off. He shows her the wall of lost cassettes, where people can always come back and find them since these cassettes hold cherished memories. Chloe is super excited that her best friend and brother are getting along, and Laura gives him her number so they can meet up again. The next day, they attend a concert together and truly vibe with the music. As he drops her off at her place, they both seem smitten with each other. Aw, young love, how nauseating. Over the following weeks, the couple falls in love. At the record store, Harrison even starts recording a cassette for her. Harrison has been studying hard to get into his dream college and works at the store part-time due to his love for music. The store owner, Cooper, walks in and warns the kids not to damage any of his items before walking out. They later drive to a cliff where he promises Laura to teach her surfing, which excites her greatly. Just then, she receives a call, informing her that she has finally secured an internship at an art museum. Although it's a bit far, she promises to return in a few months to be with Harrison, and they celebrate together. While dancing together by the cliff, they feel an earthquake, which excites them both, and they end up passionately kissing on the hood of the car, because nothing sets the mood like a natural disaster. The next day, they plan to go to the beach along with Chloe and her boyfriend, Brent, who acts like a complete jerk and drives away. Upset by this incident, Chloe spots a few muscular men at the beach and decides to approach them. Because nothing screams rebound like a beach full of muscular men, am I right? She really hits it off with Jason, while Harrison and Laura spend their time learning to surf. They spend the whole day catching waves and having the time of their lives together. By the end of the night, Harrison finally gives her the mixtape he made. A few days go by, and Harrison finally introduces Laura to his parents over dinner. They tell her that he got into the best medical college in the country, which is thousands of miles away. Hearing this news, Laura gets upset that she's going to lose the love of her life, but Harrison promises her that he's not going to let that happen as he's not going to join the college. Because who needs a promising medical career when you have true love? They make up and head to a party at the record store and dance together all night long. While having a conversation with Cooper, Laura realizes she's holding Harrison back from achieving his dreams. Good thing she has that moment of clarity amidst all the raging keggers at the record store. At an art show where Laura displays her paintings, she starts having a panic attack while talking to Harrison. She tells him he has to leave for college as she feels guilty for making him stay. But he goes in and sells one of her paintings, proving to her that all he wants to do for the rest of his life is to be with her. Ah, young love, so impulsive and utterly idiotic. On Harrison's birthday, he gifts her a necklace, and they both run into the rain, having a romantic time together. They go under a bridge and create something beautiful with paint. But sadly, all beautiful things come to an end. The next morning, Laura wakes up to a note Harrison left her, informing her about him surfing alone. Unfortunately, when Harrison crosses the road, he gets hit by a truck and passes away. And there it is, the tragic twist we all saw coming from a mile away. The next day at the funeral, Laura is heartbroken by the events that took place. Afterward, she goes up to their painting and destroys it in anger. She then goes to the record store and places the mixtape given to her by Harrison on the wall of lost cassettes and leaves. 4 years later, Laura, who's not yet gotten over the death of her beloved, is seen hooking up with a stranger. She leaves without responding to him and spends the rest of the morning surfing by herself. Nothing like a one-night stand and some casual surfing to get over your dead boyfriend. She washes up, wears a dress, and attends her best friend Chloe's wedding. Laura spends the night drinking heavily, and when approached by Chloe, she lies, saying that she's finally moved on and has a new man in her life. She runs into Cooper, who tries to cheer her up by giving her the mixtape she left at the store. That night, she reminisces about the great time she spent with Harrison by looking at all their old pictures together. When she wakes up the next morning, she finally decides to listen to the mixtape. Out of nowhere, the world around her glitches, and she's transported to the past. She suddenly realizes she's back on her first date with Harrison and is shocked to see him. Noticing her acting weirdly, Harrison worries that someone must have drugged her, but Laura assures him that she's fine. She goes to the restroom to catch her breath, and when she realizes she's not dreaming, she decides to tell him about what happened. Unfortunately, just as she's about to do so, the cassette ends, and she wakes back up in the present. She freaks out for a bit but soon realizes that this is her one chance to bring back Harrison from the dead, so she decides to give it another shot. This time, she is transported to their date by the cliff. She tells Harrison that he's going to die and begs him not to go surfing a day after his birthday. Harrison finds it hard to believe that she's from the future, and so Laura proves it to him by predicting the earthquake. Just then, the music stops, and she wakes back up in the present once again. She then rushes to Chloe's house and tells her how she can travel through time, but Chloe doesn't believe her either. Laura explains to her how she warned Harrison about his death, but unfortunately, it did not work as he's still not with them. She figures out that there are 5 more songs left on the cassette, giving her 5 more chances to save Harrison. She lets Chloe listen to one song, hoping it sends her back in time, but this time it doesn't work. Because why would it? That would make too much sense. Just then, Chloe's husband walks out, and Laura realizes that she married her jerk of an ex-boyfriend instead of Jason. She realizes that she can in fact change the course of time, and rushes to her car. On the drive, she discovers she's on the same bridge she spent the night with Harrison and runs under to check their painting. She sees that it's still ruined but in a different way. She then Googles Harrison's death and finds out that in this timeline, he died by falling off a cliff. She gets back in her car and decides to give it another shot. Because why learn from your mistakes when you can just keep making new ones? This time around, she warns Harrison to stay away from the beach and the cliffs, in hopes of saving his life. When the song ends, she runs back under the bridge once more and sees that the painting is still ruined but in a whole new way. Laura gets back home and Googles Harrison's death once again and figures out that in this new timeline, he dies from a down power line. Watching some videos of Ace recaps, she decides to try and reverse the cassette to give her more chances with Harrison, but it doesn't work. So she decides to research more on time travel and ways to get around. She spends the next few hours reading books and decides to go back in time for the 4th time. Yes, because reading a few books will definitely make you an expert on bending the laws of physics. She gets back to the time when they both attended a party at the record store. Laura tells Harrison about the research she's been doing, and they both try to come up with a solution, but just then, everything goes woozy, and Laura falls to the floor. In a sense of slow motion, her consciousness slowly leaves her body and returns back to the present, where she realizes that the mixtape is missing. She looks all over the place but doesn't find it anywhere. She then visits the record store, but upon inquiring with the owner, realizes that the store burned down 3 years ago. She then figures out Cooper's address and decides to visit him. He welcomes her in but doesn't seem too happy about her visitation. He offers her a drink, and as he goes into the kitchen, Laura snoops around his house for the mixtape. Cooper confronts her for causing the fire, but Laura seems to have no memory of it. She then asks him for the mixtape, so he looks through one of the boxes and finds it for her. As he fetches her a glass of water, she tries to go back in time once again, but it doesn't work. Shocking, I tell you, simply shocking. She tells Cooper about what's going on, and he realizes the batteries in the Walkman are dead, so he inserts it in one of his cassette players. Suddenly, Laura wakes up back in the past. When Cooper looks at her again, Laura seems to have vanished. So he pauses the cassette player, and she reappears. Laura explains to Cooper about all the events that took place. Listening to everything, he concludes that Harrison can't be saved as the universe won't allow it. He advises her to cherish her last moments with him, but Laura isn't willing to let him die, so she tries again. This time, when she wakes up in the record store, she spots the fire and extinguishes it immediately. She tells Harrison to spend less time with her, hoping that might prevent his death. Just then, the cassette ends, and she wakes up in someone else's home. Well, that's just rude. Couldn't the universe at least send her back to her own place? She apologizes and rushes to the record store, where she realizes that in this timeline, Harrison's father crashed while driving, causing their deaths. She then visits Chloe's house, where she finds her best friend heartbroken after losing her brother and father. Chloe even remained unmarried after the loss of her loved ones. So not only did her meddling fail to save Harrison, but it also ruined multiple other lives. Nice going, Laura. Realizing she's causing more harm than good by trying to be with Harrison, she decides to give it one more try. She goes back home, puts on the headset, and travels back in time. This time, at the dinner party with Harrison and his family, Laura tells him he has to move to college and forget about her, as that's the only way left to save him and his father. She makes him promise to leave and returns to the present when the song ends. She tries calling him, but he doesn't answer, meaning he never left for college. So she puts the headset back on and goes to the past for the last time. Now she's back at Harrison's birthday dinner. She has a breakdown, telling him how he's still dead and begs him to move to college, but Harrison tells her that if he's meant to die, he'd rather spend his remaining days with her. Of course he does. Why listen to reason when you can just embrace your tragic demise? They profess their love for each other and share one last kiss before the music ends, and she's back in the present. She's in tears but realizes she has to make peace with what's happened, so she goes back to the record store to place the mixtape on the wall of lost cassettes. There, Cooper approaches her and convinces her to keep it, as those memories will always guide her through life. Laura then visits Chloe and her mom, and while baking cookies, she overhears them talk about how there are two sides to every story. This strikes a chord with Laura, and she decides to check the back side of the tape, realizing there is one more song waiting to be played. Oh boy, here we go again. The gift that keeps on giving. She runs up to Chloe's room, finds a Walkman, and goes back to the past. She is now outside the record store where she first met Harrison. Chloe tries to convince her to go inside and meet her brother, but Laura decides to walk away instead. Finally, some common sense. It only took her multiple reality-altering mishaps to get there. As she does so, her entire timeline gets erased, along with all the memories she made with Harrison. She wakes back up in Chloe's room, and as she goes back downstairs to help with dinner preparations, the doorbell rings. The movie ends as Laura opens the door and meets Harrison for the first time. They instantly share a spark, and their love story finally has a second chance. What would you do to bring back a significant other from the dead? And that's a wrap, folks. We've journeyed through time, surfed the waves of romance, and even dabbled in a little sci-fi magic. Thanks for tuning into Ace Recaps, where every movie has a story worth telling. And hey, if you loved this recap as much as we loved bringing it to you, show us some love. Hit that like button, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more epic adventures. Have an awesome day, folks. Or maybe don't have an awesome day. Who am I to tell you what to do?